this is the first time that I've used this motherboard, and the only complaints that I would have with this thing is there's an RGB connector down here that for this one right here, I don't know if my camera's going to pick it up, but there's an RGB connector right there beside the HD audio that I couldn't plug this wire into, and I had to take this wire. There's another RGB connector up in this area, so there's an RGB connector right there as well, and then there's also another RGB connector like to the actual like side of it. So the motherboard has plenty of RGB connections. Your fan and CPU stuff, if you have like an AIO, you want to install like an AIO like in this computer over here, and then you can of course do that. Ports on the motherboard are perfectly fine. You know, there's two USBs up here, there's the HDMI, there's two more USBs, there's the USB-C, another USB, two more USBs, and then your LAN cable. The only con and downside that I would see to this is that there's no Wi-Fi. So if you need Wi-Fi or something like that, you're going to get some sort of a Wi-Fi adapter. I'm guessing that most people that are into like the PC gaming stuff aren't necessarily going to be using Wi-Fi. However, if you do end up using Wi-Fi, you know, then the motherboard's probably not going to be the best for you. So on the back of the box, CPU supports 13th and 12th gen. Processors the Z790, so everything is going to work out of the box. If you have a 12th gen CPU, it'll work out of the box. You don't need to update the BIOS or anything, because I mean it's not like a Z690 where it's an older version. This is the newer one. CPU socket LGA 1700. So if you're going to be putting like a CPU cooler or an AIO, look up white LGA 1700 AIO. That way you actually get the correct AIO for the actual motherboard. Chipset, power, this right here. I'd be completely honest, I'm not 100% positive what that stuff is. DDR5 up to 6800 megahertz overclock or XMP. Expansion slots, there's one PCI 5.0, and then there's one M.2 key. Something else that I actually really like about this little guy right here, this NVMe, is that screwdriver, it actually came, there's a screwdriver in there. This screwdriver actually came with this NVMe, and then there's also a screw for the NVMe in there, which I think is pretty cool. I've never seen one of these come with the actual NVMe, so that was pretty neat to see. Expansion areas, we got graphics, we got Intel UHD, graphic output, one HDMI, storage, you got the Hyper M2s, 3 Hyper M2s, 4 SATA, there's a bunch of USBs here, there's 9 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A, 5 in the rear, and then 4 in the front. The audio, the LAN, Dragon 2.5 gigabyte LAN, and then the form factor is ATX. So overall, the design of this motherboard, doing my best here to get the lighting for you. It's a pretty cool motherboard. It doesn't have like a whole lot going on. I personally think that this is going to fit the build. The graphics card that I got coming is, I actually have one that I'm going to go ahead and show you here. The graphics card that I have coming is this guy right here. This is a GeForce RTX 4060. These are just boxes. There's no graphics card in them. I keep one of each of those just